Alright guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be focusing on the Unit 4 study guide again, but we're going to be talking about slope. The big thing you need to know about slope. You have our slope formula. M equals y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Now, you can also do y2 minus y1. Just make sure then you start with x2 minus x1. Either one of those formulas will get you the same. The important thing to keep in mind is you have to have y on top of your fraction and x on the bottom of your fraction, and you need to start within the same coordinate point. So if you start with your second y value, on the bottom you need to start with your second x value. The other formula we need to know, y equals mx plus b. M is that important one that is our slope. So if you have an equation, you can easily find your slope. Now, we also have talked about this unit, parallel lines. Parallel lines mean they go on and they never touch. The trick for parallel lines is they have to have the same slope. If we do perpendicular lines meet at a 90-degree angle, and it has to be a 90-degree angle. Well, to know if they are a 90-degree angle, their slopes need to be the opposite reciprocal. So if I have -2, the opposite reciprocal is positive 1/2. If I have 3 over 5, my opposite reciprocal is -5 over 3. Our first question just asks us to find the slope of CD if C is -4, -5, and D is -5, 10. So my slope formula, again, M equals y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. So in this case, if I do y1, I have -5 minus 10, -4 minus -5. Well, -5 minus 10 is -15. -4 minus -5 is the same thing as saying -4 plus 5, which is +1. So I get a slope of -15. Now, if you did your slope formula as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, you would end up with 10 minus -5, -5 minus -4. That gives me 15 on top, -1 on the bottom, but if we divide them, you still end up with -15. So again, either way you do this, it does not matter as long as you are consistent. I can't start with -5 in my y and then start with -5 in my x because they're in two different points. So, given z and w, find the slope of a line perpendicular to zw. Now, the important thing we need to keep in mind here is perpendicular means the opposite reciprocal. So, first thing I'm going to do is find my slope. Well, 10 minus -4 over 3 minus -3. Well, 10 minus -4 is 14. 3 minus -3 is not 0. It is actually 6. Make sure you check that on the calculator because some of you are going to see 3 minus 3 and just get 0. It's not 0. 14 over 6 reduces to 7 over 3. But the question didn't ask for the slope. It asked for the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite of positive is negative. And if I flip my fraction, I get -3 over 7. If you had chose 7/3, that's not only your slope, but it's also your parallel slope. Determine whether the lines given are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. You can graph these. My only suggestion with graphing them, if they intersect each other, we know they're definitely not parallel, but make sure you check their slopes to see if they're perpendicular. Do not assume one way or another. Well, my first equation is already in slope-intercept form, so I know my slope is -3. My second equation, I'm going to solve for slope-intercept, or I'm going to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 3x on both sides, so -y equals -3x plus 15. And then I'm going to divide everything by -1. So y equals 3x minus 15. Well, if I look at my two slopes, I have -3 and I have +3. The thing to keep in mind, parallel slopes are the same. Perpendicular slopes are the opposite reciprocal. So in this case, I have -3 and I have +3. They're definitely not the same. But if I look at perpendicular, they are the opposite, but they're not the reciprocal. Even though they're opposite, it's not perpendicular because it has to be both opposite and reciprocal. So in this case, they are neither parallel nor perpendicular. All right, using the line and the point given, find a point on the line that is perpendicular to the original line. Now, that's the important thing here. First things first, I'm going to call it ML, we're going to find the slope of the line. Well, if I look, I go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, so -1/2. From here, this is where the perpendicular comes in. If it is perpendicular, that means it is my opposite reciprocal. Well, the opposite reciprocal is +2 over 1. So I'm going to take from point P and I'm going to go up 2 over 1. And I'm going to put a point. Up 2 over 1. Put a point. Up 2 over 1 and up 2 over 1. All those points connected make a perpendicular line. So you could have chosen any one of those points. We can also go down 2 to the left one and continue it. But the thing to keep in mind when it is perpendicular, it is always going to be your opposite reciprocal. Please bring any questions you have to the retake and make sure you ask them before you test so you can get a better score. Look forward to seeing you then.